gritting his teeth as the nurse cleaned the shrapnel wound on his shoulder. Her hands were gentle but efficient, her hair pulled back in a practical bun. "You're lucky," she said softly, her voice carrying a slight accent he couldn't quite place. 2 inches lower, and this would have hit your subclavian artery. Jake studied her through the haze of pain medication. She looked young, maybe 30, with calm green eyes that seemed too peaceful for a war zone. Her name tag read Dr. E. Cross. "Thanks, Doc," he managed. "How'd you end up in this hellhole?" Alina Cross smiled faintly as she wrapped his shoulder with practiced precision. "Same as everyone else, trying to make a difference." Outside, the sounds of distant gunfire echoed across the Syrian desert. The small Special Operations outpost had been under sporadic attack for days, but intelligence suggested something bigger was coming. Jake's SEAL team was supposed to evacuate tomorrow, their mission complete. Just one more night to survive. "Get some rest," Lieutenant Commander Alina said, checking his vitals one last time. "You'll need your strength for the flight out." He watched her move to the next patient, marveling at her composure. Most civilians couldn't handle the pressure of a combat zone, but she seemed almost serene. The attack came at midnight, not sporadic this time, coordinated, overwhelming. Rockets screamed overhead as Jake bolted upright, ignoring the fire in his shoulder. The tent shook with each impact. Soldiers scrambled for defensive positions as enemy fighters poured toward the perimeter. "We're overrun on the north wall," someone shouted through the radio. Jake grabbed his rifle with his good hand and rushed outside. The outpost was small, barely 50 personnel, and they were facing what looked like 200 insurgents. This wasn't a raid, it was an execution. The enemy had chosen their moment perfectly, hitting them when half the team was wounded or exhausted. Jake found his team leader, Chief Petty Officer Rodriguez, coordinating the defense. "We can't hold this," Rodriguez shouted over the gunfire. "We need air support, but the nearest assets are 40 minutes out." 40 minutes? They'd be dead in 10. Jake saw their defensive line buckling, watched good men falling back under the onslaught. Then he heard it, a single rifle shot, different from the chaos, precise. One of the enemy machine gunners dropped. Another shot, a second gunner fell. Jake spun toward the sound and froze. Dr. Alina Cross stood on top of the medical tent, an M40 sniper rifle braced against her shoulder. She was still wearing her scrubs, but the peacefulness had vanished. In her place was something else entirely. "Is that the doctor?" Rodriguez breathed, disbelief in his voice. Alina worked the bolt with fluid grace, acquired her next target, fired. An insurgent carrying an RPG crumpled before he could launch. She moved through targets with mechanical efficiency, each shot perfectly placed, no wasted movement, no hesitation. "Who the hell is she?" Jake whispered. He had spent 15 years as a SEAL, trained with the best shooters in the world. What he was witnessing was beyond exceptional. It was art. An enemy squad tried to flank their eastern position. Alina shifted her aim, dropped 3 men in rapid succession. The 4th turned to run. She led him by half a body length and put a round through his center mass at 400 yards. In the chaos of battle, she was an island of absolute calm. Jake found himself moving toward her position, drawn by a need to understand. He climbed onto the medical tent as she reloaded with practiced speed. "Doc, what? Not now," she said quietly, her eye never leaving the scope. "Clear my 6. I'm exposed up here." Training overrode questions. Jake positioned himself to guard her position, dropping targets that got too close while she handled the distant shots. They fell into a rhythm, 2 professionals working in perfect synchronization. Minutes stretched into eternity. The enemy advance stalled, then broke. The insurgents had expected an easy victory, not to face a ghost who could reach out and touch them from distances they thought were safe. When the firing finally ceased, Alina lowered her rifle and closed her eyes, taking one long breath.
Then she climbed down and immediately returned to being a doctor, moving among the wounded with the same gentle efficiency she'd shown hours before. Jake followed her, his mind reeling. "Who are you?" he demanded. Alina knelt beside a soldier with a leg wound, her hands already working. "I'm a trauma surgeon, Lieutenant Commander, just like my credentials say." "Trauma surgeons don't shoot like that?" She glanced up at him, and for a moment her carefully maintained mask slipped. "Some of us have complicated histories." Rodriguez appeared, his face grim. "Doc, I just got off encrypted comms with JSOC. Apparently there's a flag on your file. I needed special clearance to access." Alina's hands paused for just a fraction of a second, then continued their work. "What did they tell you?" "That before you were Dr. Alina Cross, you were Sergeant First Class Elena Volkov, former Russian Spetsnaz before you defected 8 years ago. 63 confirmed kills in Chechnya before you walked away. Medical school was part of your cover identity, except you actually completed the degree and became a real surgeon." Jake felt the ground shift beneath him. "Was Russian Special Forces," Alina corrected softly, finishing the bandage. "I defected because I was tired of killing for politicians who did not care about the bodies they created. I wanted to save lives instead." She looked up at both men, her green eyes holding depths of old pain. "I did terrible things in service to a terrible regime. When I got the chance to escape, I took it. The agency helped me disappear, gave me a new identity. I finished medical school, started over. I thought I could leave that life behind." "But you kept the skills?" Rodriguez observed. Elena stood, wiping blood from her hands. "Skills like mine don't disappear just because you want them to. Tonight, those skills saved lives. That's all that matters." An explosion in the distance reminded them that danger wasn't over. Alina turned to Jake, and he saw the real woman beneath all the layers, someone haunted by her past, but determined to build something better from the ruins. "I need to prep the wounded for evac. When the helicopters arrive, I'll be on one of them, heading to another outpost, another group of soldiers who need a doctor. You'll probably never see me again." Jake reached out and gently caught her wrist. "Thank you for tonight, for all of it." She met his eyes and offered a sad smile. "We're all trying to atone for something, Lieutenant Commander. I just do it one surgery at a time." As dawn broke over the desert, Jake watched the Blackhawks arrive. Elena boarded without looking back, her medical bag slung over one shoulder, her secrets intact. Rodriguez stood beside him, shaking his head in wonder. "You believe her story about trying to save lives?" Jake thought about the precision of her shooting, the gentleness of her hands as she treated his wound. Two sides of the same coin, destruction and healing. "Yeah," he said finally, "I do. Sometimes the people who've seen the worst are the ones who fight hardest to make it better." The helicopter lifted off, carrying the mysterious doctor toward her next mission. Jake touched his bandaged shoulder and silently thanked the nurse who was so much more, the warrior who chose healing, the woman who proved that redemption was possible, even for those with blood on their hands. In a world of endless war, she had found her own way to fight by refusing to let the darkness